Hey guys, quick disclaimer here. I know nothing about Resident Evil, and I just couldn't find, I know nothing about Resident Evil, so I honestly didn't know how to edit this video, so I just had a simple background, and that's about it. Had some background music. I'm not the one who recorded this video, as you will hear later on, but yeah, minimal editing because I just know nothing about Resident Evil. So without further ado, let's get on to the video.
Alright guys, one of the mayors, aka DM Reviews, writer, back here with another video. And in this one, I'd like to go over Resident Evil Village and explain the complicated ending. Resident Evil Village is the sequel to the 2017 critically acclaimed video game Resident Evil 7, and is the 8th game in the main series. What was so special about Resident Evil 7 and what earned it such critical praise was that it went back to the survival horror roots which made the first 4 games so popular. Resident Evil 5 felt just like Resident Evil 4, but with predictable plot points and more action, and an AI which pretty much made it impossible to play solo. And Resident Evil 6 was just a flat-out action mess. Resident Evil 8 brings back the survival horror aspects of the series, while still including some action elements, but not overdoing it like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 8's story takes place with Ethan Winters as the central protagonist. The game is set 3 years after the events that took place in Resident Evil 7. We see Mia and Ethan settled down in Europe and are raising a baby named Rose. After what seems to be a normal night, Chris Redfield comes in, kills Mia, and takes Rose. Heavy spoiler warning for the remainder of the video, so if you haven't played Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 8, I would advise you to leave the video now. First, let's start with the villain, Mother Miranda. Mother Miranda lost her daughter Eve to the Spanish flu. She wanders into a cave to kill herself, but instead stumbles upon something called the Megamycete. This is where the mold comes from in Resident Evil 7. Through experimenting with it, she makes something from the Megamycete called the Kadu, which takes people's consciousness and turns them into monsters if experimenting is unsuccessful. The reason why she wants to do this is to get a candidate to put her daughter Eve into. She runs human experiments with it, but only finds 4 successful people that got infected with the Kadu, but weren't true candidates for the bodies of her daughter, Eve, to take. This is kind of like the heart of the mold in Resident Evil 7. So the mold originally started in the village. This connects with the rest of the series because originally, many years ago, Oswald Spencer originally came here to do research on the mold, but eventually left to start his own company, which was Umbrella. He actually stole the famous logo from artwork in the village. Then, many years later, the Connections came to do research on the mold. They eventually made something from the mold called Evelyn, which is the antagonist from Resident Evil 7, but Miranda thought she wasn't like her daughter enough, so they left. Now she hears of Rose Winters. You may be wondering, why would she care about a random baby? The answer becomes clear in one of the major twists of the game. During the opening hour of Resident Evil 7, Jack Baker actually kills Ethan and infects him with the mold virus. The mold actually had the best effect on him and only gave him regenerative abilities and didn't take his consciousness at all, and he didn't become a monster. So the whole time Ethan Winters was actually infected with the mold and was pretty much just made out of mold because he's already dead, when he was just the best outcome of one and didn't die. Because he was a mold, that was the reason he was able to withstand so much injury during the past 2 games, since after a little while, he would just regenerate his limbs back. So, when he and Mia had a baby, the baby was made half out of mold. So Miranda thought Rose would be the perfect candidate to implant Eve into because she was made out of mold. Now, let's talk about Chris. It came to a shock to me and probably everyone when Chris killed Mia and took Rose. What we learn later in the game is that Mia was actually taken by Miranda and was locked in the village the whole time. And the Mia that we see at the beginning of the game was actually a power that Miranda had, which is that she could take the form of any human being. So when Chris killed quote-unquote Mia, that was really Mother Miranda playing dead. So Chris thought that she died, so he forcibly took Ethan in his truck, and the reason why the car crashed in the beginning of the game was that Miranda was actually alive and killed everyone in the car. During the events of the main game, Chris and his BSSA squad, Hound Wolf Squad, was actually looking for ways to stop Mother Miranda and to actually not harm Ethan in any way, or to save him. Now let's get to the actual ending of the game. After the boss fight with Miranda, Ethan gets Rose back. But the issue was that Ethan was a mold, and we know that mold monsters can't regenerate forever. That's why he was able to kill them in Resident Evil 7. So he gives Rose to Chris, and Chris and Rose and Mia escape while Ethan sacrifices himself and blows up the Megamycete in the village with him in it, and ends the horrors. Post-credit scene, we see Rose in her teenage years visit her dad's grave. Then we see a car pull up, which is filled with agents, probably part of the BSAA squad, the Hound Wolf squad. We hear one of the agents mutter into his walkie-talkie, "Don't take the shot, she is just a kid." That means that there was a sniper watching her because they are keeping a heavy eye on her, just in case she turns out like Evelyn. The reason why they were coming to pick her up was because they were probably taking her to training with Chris, so she can learn how to use her mold powers for the greater good. That was Resident Evil Village's ending explained. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment which movie or TV show you would like us to discuss next. Also, make sure to comment what your thoughts on Resident Evil Village was. This is one of the mayor's writers, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.